Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We thank you for joining us for another outreach. Uh, I remember Hajj Ali when in 1992, uh, probably it was in September, uh, when I arrived at the airport in Detroit. Four people were waiting for me at the custom area.
Yes.
And now that I look at that, 28 years later,
Yes.
all those four people unfortunately are gone. I saw Hajj Khalil Alawan, Hajj Hussein Maqlet, Hajj Hussein Hamoud, and Hajj Ali Naji. God bless their souls. Four of them were kindly and patiently waiting for me at the custom, and the procedure took a little bit time. Usually I'm coming from Iran and United States, and after everything that had happened at that time, Iranian Revolution and war and everything, so it took some time for question and answer. So, but they were so happy that finally I was released and we met. So, Hajj Ali Naji was driving, God bless his soul, and we went directly from the airport to Hajj Ali's house. That he hosted me there for 6 months. He had just built that beautiful house in Chase Road in Dearborn. Yes.
Maybe more than 6 months.
Yes, maybe, more than
almost
6 months.
Yeah.
Took time for him, right? And I was there in the basement. That's a finished, complete, nice basement that
He was very proud of his house.
very proud of his house at that time.
Was newly built.
Yes, yes. So subhanallah, how time flies so fast that all those four gentlemen, Hajj Khalil is gone, Hajj Hussein, and Hajj Ali, four of them. And I'm glad that some of them, they had a conversation with Professor Sally Howell, who wrote that book, Old Islamic Detroit, a book that a few years ago she wrote.
Sally Howe.
Sally Howe,
Yeah.
right? Sally Howell. And so they left some words and some legacies there. And I thought that you, Hajj Ali Fayz, that we really appreciate and we are honored that you accepted this invitation, that we have this conversation with friendly chatting. And when I came to the room, I saw the ba'at that you already brought us lots of ba'at and date. So generosity, Hajj Ali, has been part of your personality and Hajj Wanda's personality. And you are so blessed. The name, they are saying that Al-Asma'u tunzalu min as-sama. Fayz is, like in Arabic, means khairul kathir. Fayz means khairul kathir. And you really represent khairul kathir. You are representing everything good in your heart, in your mind, in your intention, in your actions. And I think that you've been a big part of progress in the community and especially Islamic Center since the establishment of Islamic Center of America in 1963, I think, 1963.
In 1963, Islamic Center was opened.
Was
But the
open.
organization was established in 1956.
1956.
56, yeah.
And then we had Sheikh Khalil
Khalil Bazzi.
Bazzi, right?
Allah yarhamu.
Allah yarhamahu. And then he was in the community for maybe 50 years of long time of service.
Sheikh Khalil Bazzi, Allah yarhamu, was very unique. He did not have a set salary or anything, but he was working selling fruit and vegetables to grocery stores. And whenever any services needed, religious services, marriage or funerals, he was always there and never did accept any type of support.
And I heard that he was working for a while in Ford Company, that the salary probably was $2 a day, $3 a day at that time.
I remember back from 1950 when I was on a peanut route, I used to see him delivering vegetables and fruit to stores, and I tried to ask him if I could help him. He said, "No, don't do it. You make me feel bad," and I wanted to help him.
Wow!
But he was very unique. Allah yarhamu. He was so
Allah yarhamu.
special.
And then Imam Shari in 1946, 1947,
Imam
he
Shari,
arrived.
to tell you the story, brother, sometimes it's good to know.
Mm.
The community was visited by Adla Sayran.
Uh-huh.
At that time, he was very well respected, adored in the government in Lebanon, and he came here, and he promised to send us an Imam who graduated from a Najaf and highly scholar. So Imam Shari came in 1949, and that's what he started. And he was trying to, first thing he wanted to do, to learn English, because he wanted to reach the young generation so he could communicate with them. He tried to learn language in English almost immediately. Within a short period of time, within 3-4 years or 5 years, I believe, he was able to lecture in English. And he was he was asked by the Michigan City community to come and join them there and to help them get leader, because a lot of our community people were living there. And he was there for about 4 or 5 years. Then he moved back to our community, to Dearborn, by Zahir Khalil, Hajj Khalil Alawan, and Yusuf Malad, Joe Malad, he used to call him Joe Malad, and Mary Cadry. Those 4 people who went to Michigan City to bring him to Dearborn. And he had a house that he rent, and he was living in Detroit at that time, and he was lecturing he started to learn lecture on Sunday school at the Hashimi Hall on Sunday, and then he continued on to Highland Park to teach there for lecture was on Victor Street. Victor. Yes. And,
it's amazing, Hajj Ali, like, when I came to Michigan in 1992, Imam Shari is still alive, but because of health situation, he could not function anymore. But you remember, he used to come to Friday prayer, and despite of forgetting a lot of stuff, but Surah Al-Jum'ah was in his mind.
That's right.
He did not forget Surah Al-Jum'ah. That sometimes that I used to, lead the prayer and recite Surah Al-Jum'ah, Imam Shari was saying it loudly too.
Yes.
That sometime after Salah, used to say, "Imam, please, when you say it loudly, I get confused." But he was not doing well, so I was so impressed that despite of his illness, but his personality and his gravity of akhlaq and morality
Yes.
was so strong that I was so encouraged. I mean, he was encouraging, very positive, very visionary, a real leader. I heard that, as you mentioned, he was living in the rental house, and he used to go from house to house to encourage people to bring them to the masjid because things were totally different at that time. And then he made a journey to Egypt to meet with Jamal Abdel Nasser, president of Egypt.
The trip to Egypt, brother, he was, when he came back in 56, Imam Shuri, at that time, he wanted to build a mosque, lead a mosque. So he made an effort to go to the Middle East and also to Africa. He went to Sierra Leone, Freetown, Sierra Leone, and they loved him there. They wanted him to stay. And he said, I'm committed now to complete my mission in the Dearborn area, Detroit area, and I want to build a mosque. He insisted on that. So he visited Egypt. Jamal Abdel Nasser, Allah yarhamu, was donated to the Islamic, to our cause, 46,000.
At that time, lots of money, 47,000.
$47,000.
Wow.
And then he also got $7,000 donated from Malik Hussein in Jordan. Brought the money here and bought a piece of land, bought the land on Joy Road from the Ford Motor Company at that time for, I believe it was $30,000. And at that time, we tried to get some plan, and luckily we were at that time there were a builder, Italian builder. He was very nice and generous. He did the construction at no fee for it, and we were paying the subcontractor from the directly to the subcontractor directly from the Treasury, Islamic Center Treasury. And but they decided to build. The bank with no track record as far as organization. The organization was brand new. So since we didn't have no history at that time, then the bank insisted on us to participate in the construction of the walls, put the walls up, and then they would complete the loan. They loaned us at that time $50,000, but we had to raise $30,000 to build the walls. When we built the walls, and there was 10 members, each one for $2,000 loaned to the Islamic Center. Some of them didn't have the money of their own. They had to borrow the money, personal loan from the bank to loan it to Islamic Center.
Wow.
And also the Hajj Hussein Millet was very much well connected with the bank. That bank at that time, the name of Detroit Bank and Trust, now was being acquired by Comerica Bank. And he was able to raise $10,000 by using his home as a collateral and also put a lien on a checking account.
Allah yarhamah.
Yes. So we were able to raise 30,000.
Wow.
And then what happened? The construction started, and then the mosque was built, and we didn't have enough money to build the minaret. That was built later on in 1968.
1968. Wow.
We had it built in 1968.
You know, that is something that really we take it for granted, especially the new generation. And you are talking about 60 years ago, almost 60 years ago, that how things started. I mean, how much struggles and turmoils and troubles that generation, your generation, went through, and things were almost ready for this new generation that we really take it for granted. It's very hard. I mean, you went through so much struggle.
They were very excited, especially with American-born young generation. They want something. As a matter of fact, Imam Shi'ia, he wanted to make sure that he form a board of trustees. And most of the board members were American-born. American-born. I mean, like Jimmy Khalil, Muhammad Khalil, Sidney Sheikh, and Naif Samhat, Chuck Alawan, and many others of that who were American born and on the board. So they could communicate with the young generation. And some of the board members were also lecturing Islam in separate rooms for the young
Especially Hajj Chuck Alawan.
Chuck Alawan
was,
and Hajj Sidney Sheikh
yes.
now. And we had other members. But what I'm saying is that he want to concentrate to reach the young generation. And what got us more motivated back in the 50s, before Imam Shari came, before Imam Shari started, we didn't have nothing except the hall on Hashimi Hall and the Victor Street. That was like a storefront. And the people were anxious to have a mosque where they could enjoy and worship and exchange and to get to know each other. The reason that the mosque was built to be built on Joy Road, that location, because some of the members attended the mosque lectures. They lived in Highland Park. If you look at Sally Howell, she'll tell you the first mosque was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Okay, that's according to her research.
Okay.
And she knows a lot. She studied Islam and studied very
So this
well.
was the Highland Park Mosque was the second maybe in the nation, right? In 1921, we are talking about almost 100 years ago.
We had also at Michigan City, Indiana.
Yes.
There's a large community there. A lot of used to our community was established more there because they used to build trade cars, the train, and they were working there for $1, $1.50 a day. And then when Ford Motor Company in 1926, I believe, when they did offer to pay $5 a day, a lot of our community people moved from there to here.
But I'm amazed, Hajj Ali, regarding the role of Imam Shari. I mean, you just said that, the community was poor financially. Then he had to travel to Egypt and Jordan and, support financially to buy the land.
Yes.
And then at the same time, like we have it today, racism is not new. It was even worse at that time. There was racism and black and white issue and immigrants, non-immigrants. And then he had to write books and give lectures and even going to the radio weekly, having radio talking about Islam.
He had a program on the radio, questions and answer. For the name of the program was Focus on Islam.
Focus on Islam.
Yes.
Right. The name of the.
Yes, and it was, I believe, 7:30 or 8:30 in the morning, every morning on Sunday.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And he had a program also on TV. That some channels that they interview him and ask about questions and being interviewed to get the Islamic.
Because at that time we didn't have any of this technology of Facebook and internet and email and none of this exists. As a matter of fact, I remember, Hajj Ali, the first years that I came here, you were the only one who had like a cell phone in your car because nobody had cell phone at that time. Wireless phone.
Yes.
And you had an antenna on the top of your car.
Yes.
And it was a big deal to somebody.
That's
I mean,
right.
it was like a shock to me. Oh, Hajj Ali, you can talk from your car? He said, yes, you can. That was very new to me. But you had it at that time.
It was luxury item.
Yeah, it was
and,
luxury.
And it was like a toy,
Yeah.
But when you travel and work out of town, it's good to have it to communicate with your
Yes,
with
yeah,
the people.
it was.
But Molena, as far as where we were, it was not easy. It was tough.
Very tough.
It was very tough. But people, most everybody, was very sincere and anxious to help for what limited amount that they could offer to help in any way possible. And we had established at that time Sunday school, so the mother and the kids would come to the Islamic lecture so the kids could have a class to learn about Islam, and also the mother and the father could attend the lecture with this for the Sheikh to learn about Islam and what the obligations are and what their duties are as far as their family and as far as the community and how to be a good citizen in the United States.
So why do you think, Hajj Ali, we don't have that spirit, that volunteerism? I remember like an Islamic center, even when I was there in Joyride for the first 3 years, those ladies that they used to come like early in the morning on Friday and make ba'ad, and everybody was volunteer. Everyone, Hajj Wanda was, as a matter of fact, a leader of the Women's Society at that time. And they used to really spend so much time and so much sacrifice and not to sleep, come in the mosque early in the morning and make ba'at ready and then raise penny by penny, and then at the time of fundraising 50,000, 100,000. And so I'm wondering that really why we don't have that atmosphere anymore. What happened? The board members, the women's societies, the volunteers, that they were sacrificing for their identity, for their faith, for their culture, for everything to be proud, to be strong. I mean, no doubt that now the new generation, more education, more power, more money. But when you compare it with that time, that despite of all those struggles, they were so serious. They were sincerely working free for the sake of their faith. And how can, based on your experience, because you went through many different generations.
That's right.
Yeah.
About 60
How
years.
can we transfer that tradition and that spirit and that sacrifice to new generation? Because looks like we lack something despite of all the progress, and we are proud of too many good things in our community, no doubt about it. But there are certain characteristics, there are certain qualities, there are certain, as I said, sacrifice that you generations went through, and now that things are ready, looks like everybody is taking advantage of it. I mean, even now in this critical corona crisis, that a lot of people lost their jobs, but still, I mean, every Friday here at the House of Wisdom, we have this food and fruit distribution that almost 2,000 people, they come and take things for free. So it's not like people are not suffering the way that they used to suffer at that time. That even in the middle of this crisis, still people are much better in their life and situation compared to like 50, 60 years ago. So you think, how can mosque or a school or community leaders like yourself and everybody contribute to establish the same spirit of 50, 60 years ago to current generation? Because
Morena, it takes step by step. For example, for you, if you visited my family tomorrow, my kids and my grandkids and neighbor kids be there, and you give us a little briefing about Islam and what are the responsibility of each individual for his family, for his community, for his deen, we appreciate that. We need it. We are not doing that. Unfortunately, the leadership also has to be part of it.
More active.
More active.
Yeah.
More active our homes and gathering and participation in these type of function, because people mean well. Most people are wonderful. Our community is great. We have good people out there. They worked hard. Look at the good example that has been happening in just in the Dearborn Heights area, and also in schools, in hospitals, in medical schools. We came a long ways. I remember years ago we had one attorney and one doctor. The attorney was at that time, as they Michael Berry, Elahi.
Yeah, yeah.
He was great. Also, the doctor, if I remember, that his name was Ahmed. He had an office on 4th Street at that time.
Right.
Okay. Today,
Only one. At that the whole community. You're just right.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
When we had a look for real estate, we had one salesman in our community. Today, alhamdulillah, we have many successful ones.
Right.
To come back to the communication, today we are a lot better off today in communicating with people than we were before. And the people,
Because of this technology and
the people,
social media.
What I'm saying, our community and as a whole, they mean well. They're generous, they care, and they are very cared about their children, to raise them well and to grow and be in good practice, Islamic practices. At that time also what we did, so when back in our years, we used to contact merchants, go to their places, to their store, and ask them for a little support to the center, a little donation.
Yeah.
And we formed a, what do we call it, ad book.
Yes.
We contacted
yes.
people, American
Yes,
companies.
yes.
We contacted.
And your role was, I remember, Hajj Ali, that your role very fundamental.
The people like
Yes.
Stefan Blackwood Hall. I was on Warren Avenue.
Yes.
We contacted 4 dealerships, Huntington Bank. These are companies that you contact them for a little support and they will come through.
I see.
And Makul
Wow.
chiropractor. And so what I'm saying is, when you contact them, let them know for support. They will come through, and they mean well, and they have done very well in as far as raising their families, and they kept close to the support the center and to support other projects.
Wow.
But they need to be contacted. Treat me right, I will treat you good. When you go to a store, a merchant, newly opened a store, and he's successful, there's nothing wrong with you or with me to tell him congratulations, Mabruk. We're proud of you. You make our community more proud to have a successful businessman, successful doctor. The people want to be recognized. They want to be appreciated. Let them know you belong to the Islamic Center of America. Let them know that the Islamic Center could use support. They cannot attend to the dinner, but they could put an ad in the ad book, or they may not want to. They also may want to give you a check. Like Sam Hat Tire, for example, we had one for.
Yeah, Allah yarhamu, Hajj Naif, huh? Is it?
Samhat.
Yeah.
This Hajj Naif Samhat.
Wow.
He used to work back in.
Wow,
This
yeah.
is back in.
Very generous man. He was very, very generous. Yeah.
Louis Yasmin Bakery, Lashish, and Mashak Proctor, doing real estate, and many more. What I'm saying is, most people mean well, and let them know you appreciate them.
Depends how you communicate, and I think you were very unique and exceptional in the communication, and really your role in establish of the new center on Ford Road. It was very obvious that you were one of those.
You know why
I'm
I'm proud, because we came a long ways.
Yeah.
I remember when I went to school in Salina, 1951, a teacher asked me, "Where is your church?" And we didn't have no church. We didn't have no mosque. We didn't have nothing. And we wanted to have something. We want to be learn from others who are successful, like the Jewish community, like the Orthodox churches, like the Greeks, like the Armenian. They are successful, and we learn from them. And we need to copy their system, how they communicate, and how they do mix with their in the congregation.
It's amazing. I heard that there was a time that before the establishment of Islamic Center, when your generation, the older ones, were in Hashemi Hall. It was two stories. That one story they were praying and one story they were dancing, like two different communities. That then at the time of Salat, like there was a tension that, you know, those who are busy with that celebration, maybe it was like a birthday party that they were dancing to, and
Yes.
there was a Salat al-Maghrib. And subhanallah, how things change compared to like 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. And this is something that the young generation should know, that, as you said, from having nothing compared to now that in Dearborn Heights, we already have 20, 30 mosques. I remember the first time that we came to Dearborn Heights, in this location, House of Wisdom, there were some people say, "Oh, this is too far. House of Wisdom is too far."
Yes.
You know, for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And now see our communities all over. I mean, all the city and the neighboring cities and all this mosque and the centers and subhanallah, so much progress, so much positive developments compared to that. And it happened through sacrifice, hard work, working together, cooperation. And this is really, we need to continue that. We need that unity. We need that. I know when Imam Sherry was there, and then Sheikh Abdul Latif Berri came to the community. It was 1980, I think, 1980 almost, and he got a room somewhere from access to start the Friday prayer. It was really struggling compared to now, that Islamic Center, Majma, House of Wisdom, Ma'had, all of this.
Islamic Institute also.
Exactly,
Yes.
Ma'had al-Islami. I mean, this something to celebrate. But what would you like to leave as your legacy, Hajj Ali? And what is it that you like the youth, the young generation to know out of your experience, your knowledge, your leadership, your activities in the last more than 60 years now?
Well, today we are more equipped than before to get the message out there. But what the young generation today need more outstanding speakers. They need some kind of information how they could practice their faith, why they are expanding their education, and why they are in their profession, if they're in a corporation or in a medical field or at the school level, whatever. But I still feel, Molana, that we need to reach out to them. We need to reach out. For example, right now when we have a graduate from high schools in our community here, four high schools, for example, at least 400 or 500 graduate from each high school a year. It doesn't take too long for your office or some secretary to get the names of those graduates from a school and send them a little note, little letter, congratulate them, let them know you recognize them, let them know you care. It would be worth it. There's nothing like it. What the parents, when they see that, come from the House of Wisdom, or from Islamic Center, or from Islamic Institute, some letter coming in, or recognize it by daughter or by son.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's outreach matters.
Yes, and maybe when if we have sometime the kids are playing football, and the winner of that game or the winner for the year, maybe you could invite them and have a breakfast, all the players and the parents, and let them know, and then give them a little lecture about Islam.
And it's easier now compared to the past because of this social media that we have now. We have Facebook, we have WhatsApp, we have internet, we have Instagram, we have email. None of this existed at that time. And so we are more equipped to communicate
Yes.
compared to the past.
There's no question.
No question and no excuse. We don't
Yes.
have too much excuse,
When
really.
at the Islamic Center, we used to have a pay phone.
Yeah,
Pay a dime, put a dime,
Right.
to make a phone call.
right.
Yes.
Look at that now. That nobody is using that phone
And
anymore.
back in the 50s, people used to have a private line, what do you call, party line. They pay $3.50 per month for party line, and for private line you paid $7 a month
Wow.
for private line. So I mean, people really had it very tough to raise their children, and they worked real hard. Alhamdulillah, most of our community people today are very successful, and we are very proud of them
Alhamdulillah.
in many different ways, really. And they behave well, and they do practice Islam in many different ways. If you could see it in Ashura days, or Ramadan celebration, or Eid al-Adha, or Eid al-Ghadir, they do come around and they do support when you do call them, especially when you have a good speaker.
Mm-hmm.
When you do have a good speaker, people
Yeah,
come.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And I'd like to touch base, Molena. You asked an earlier question about people, how did they support
Mm-hmm.
the center? I have a book here from 1963.
Wow. 1963.
From 1963, this is signed by Imam Shawachir,
Wow.
okay?
That time.
From 1963. We have donations here from some people, $50, $25, $100. Donations are here to kind of Ralph Abbas, $25, and Salman, $80, so we have donations list, and the people got a copy of this to their homes. We send it to their homes to let them know what money came in, what money was spent,
How you spend
and
it?
what
How you spend it?
was spent.
I see.
We did send it to the homes, and the list of all donors, who they were. This from 1963.
Wow.
We had some individuals who worked in a factory, and they come in with a check, that the paycheck for the week, $67.75, $75.80. I mean, these were really sincere, dedicated people. A whole week check back in the 60s.
Wow.
And we have some good people, and we do have a much more today, that the children today of those families are doing well, and they raise their children well, and they are well educated, and we have to be very proud of them.
Wow. Exactly. You know, something good about you, Hajj Ali, always positive. Somebody was saying that, look at this glass of water, you know, the water is positive, but the rest of the empty part is negative here. So the empty part is oxygen, right? And then we have water here. And he was saying that you cannot just fight negativity. You cannot fight this oxygen. You cannot take this oxygen out of this glass of water. The only way that you can do that, just to put more water. If you put more water on this, in these glasses, if you put more water, then more water is coming and the oxygen is out of it. So we cannot just be negative and just poor me. Only through positivity we can have progress.
There's no question about it.
And I think one of the things that I remember in the last 28 years of friendship with you, that you have very positive vision, and that is a cause of your success and success of your family, and the success that you brought to the center and to the community, and God bless you for
Maulana,
that intention.
I'd like to
encourage
I'd like to share something with you. This is a picture of the center when it was built, 1962.
1962.
This is a build. The center was
In Joy Road, right?
We put that on Joy Road. But what happened? He's the same Abdel Nasser.
Yes,
talking
Jamal
about
Abdel Nasser. Yes.
The donation that we got from Abdel Nasser. And we also made a progress about the cemetery.
Wow, yes, yes.
Roseland Park, that United Memorial Garden.
Right. As a matter of
in-
fact, it was yesterday, the day before yesterday, I went there there was a janazah, and I did the dua for janazah, and one moment I said, what happened? I have to go and recite Fatiha for Imam Sharri. So I stopped by and went the same site that you just showed me, the grave of Imam Sharri. And it's very important that when people go to the cemetery,
You
they
see,
remember all these things. And
Sometime, Mulana, there's an old saying, a person has many different ways to improve. Always look at the ones. There's three types of people in life. Three types. Those who make things happen, those watch things happen, and those don't know what's happening.
You are one of those who made things happen.
No, we learn from others.
Yeah.
We learn. When we attended that opening at the Islamic Center in Toledo in 1985, Imam Shirri was saying, Yalla ya shabab, tharraku. Wake up, you guys wake up. Learn.
Wow.
They got 46 acres in Sylvania out there, and beautiful land on the highway. So very impressive.
Yeah.
And we were on Joy Road, stuck every time we had a big gathering. We had a problem with parking.
Yes, yeah.
And he had.
And safety,
Yeah.
sometimes safety.
Yes, and then he wanted to have, so we wanted to have a property where it can be exposed, accessible, and easy for our community. And he wanted to be along the highway. We didn't have enough money to build on our highway, but we did have some money saved, and we went out to Plymouth. So we were lucky to find parcel of land, farm at that time. It was approximately 90 acres of land. And this is the layout that we had in mind to build a center and to build a youth center and to build a little school and have some houses.
That would be still a vision for the future, but apparently the community was not ready to go that far. That's why you decided to sell that property and build this mosque here. I think
we were at that time thinking about building something out there because we were so crowded. We didn't have, and we needed to expand. And when we bought the land on payment plan, and the people were very encouraged, they were very excited and very supportive.
Yes,
they did come through. We had a fundraising dinner, and we had some plans to build that. And
how much did you buy that land at that time?
That was close to about a little over $1 million.
Wow, that much.
Yes, at that time. But we didn't have no cash. We were making payment.
I see.
And we got donation. We paid it. And then that land that we were fortunate that our neighbor, that they built a subdivision on Ridge Road and Powell. There was a subdivision there built, and that subdivision was connected to our property.
I see.
And our property value increased.
So
we bought for about 11,000 an acre at that time, and we sold it for 31,000 an acre.
I see.
And we also had a house, and we built about we made a profit approximately $2 million. And when we moved from there to buy the YMCA property, we paid cash. We didn't have no payment on that land.
I wish we had something like that for the future, because now the situation with Dearborn Heights are full, almost full of capacity, and our people that are going to different areas, Plymouth and Ann Arbor and Farmington and Bloomfield and those areas. And if we have such a complex to not only to make a mosque, but also housing around the mosque, and then people have access. I mean, that would be
I
like,
don't think it's too early, but the community is spread out there. They're there
Yeah,
between Canton
yeah,
and also Plymouth
yes, yes,
and also Novi,
Yeah.
Northville,
Northwood, right?
and Livonia.
Yeah,
There's a tremendous amount of community
They're
members
there.
moved out,
Yeah.
and they're close to their work,
Yeah.
or to their profession,
Yeah.
wherever they might be in.
yeah, that's true.
We need to reach them.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
have young families.
Yeah,
They have young kids. They like to. They need to reach out to them.
well, we pray, Hajj Ali Fayz, Allah provide you a long life with health, and you continue your contribution and your guidance to the community, guidance to new generation. Because really, when I think about the brothers that they were with us and they are not with us anymore, and it's just but it's nature of life. I mean, nobody is going to be permanent in this dunya, but it's good to at least do these things before we die. Before we die, we leave a legacy, and you yourself are a legacy of doing
learned that
these
from
things.
you
Right,
when
thank you.
Sheikh Shuri, Allah yarham. Sayyid Hassan Kazwini.
Right,
Allah
right,
yarham.
yeah.
Naam.
Sayyid and Sheikh Berri,
Naam.
Marhum Khalil Bazi,
Allah yarham.
Sheikh Karoub was,
Hussein Karoub.
Hussein Karoub
Hussein
was.
Karoub was, he was one of the original imams here, yes. And he also had a
Long
print
time.
shop. He had
I
a
see,
print shop.
print
He used
shop,
to
right.
he used to help us to print our
Wow,
album
you used to go and printing in his
in Allen Park.
store. Allen Park.
This is print at Karoub.
Wow.
Was print at Karoub.
Subhanallah.
He
لا
used to
يرحمهم
print
جميعا.
for us in English and Arabic, so we could reach out to everybody.
Wow.
And
Subhanallah.
we as far as where we've been, we had a tough time, but we came a long ways. We have a lot to be proud of. The young generation today are doing excellent, and they are exceeding. They're going to colleges like Harvard, Yale, others, U of M, and they are exceptionally well. They are our kids. They are aggressive, and they are achievers. They're making us
Sure.
very proud. But we have a job as a religious community to reach out to them. They need to do something to be done on a local level, and where we could be closer.
And
to
this
them.
is their turn, really, that new generation that they have the things that your generation at that time lacked it. You didn't have that. Now they have the language, they know the culture, they have education, they have connection with the rest of the society. So really, this is the time that we need this new generation to be a source of support, not only for our community, but for the country. Because still we are facing racism, we are facing Islamophobia, we are facing discrimination. If you look at this, the presidential debate just a few nights ago, it's just amazing that the heaviness of the struggle that we are facing as Muslims, as minorities, as other communities, other minorities, and this is time for our new generation to show responsibility and show leadership and be on the scene and deal with these issues, social responsibility, because life is not about just me, myself, and I.
No, you have to think
It's about
others, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need their involvement, we need their engagement, we need their leadership, especially at this time that our country and the world are going through this unfortunate killing virus and this crisis that just few days ago, we heard that the number of casualties over 1 million in the world, over 200,000 in the United States,
alone.
right?
200.
It's just is very, very sad. But again, with our involvement, with our contribution, we should be source of help, the source of hope, the source of positivity, as you showed it in your practice, in your personality, and of course our faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we put our hope and our trust in God, and we pray that we pass this time of toughness, time of tragedy, time of test, and inshallah everything get normal again, and we be able to do those visitations that you just mentioned.
That's right.
That we go to the families, we visit the families, and establish a better connection between the families and the mosque and the religious leaders. But we appreciate, Hajj Ali, everything that you and your generation did for our community, for our faith, for our country, for humanity, for the world. We are proud of you, Hajj. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you.
I'm being motivated. I'm motivated because the people I associate with, they are motivated. They encourage me to do better and better.
Alhamdulillah. 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 We also pray for Hajj Wanda, that really this lady is a lady of light. Hajj Wanda, her leadership, her influence, her hard work for the center and for the community, we never forget that. And if you have any other final comment, Hajj Ali, before we say goodbye to our viewers, to our listeners.
Well, what I wanted to say, Mulana, we appreciate the good work you're doing, the interfaith, reaching out to Washington and others. Let the people know that Islam is a good example. Islam recognizes Christianity, Judaism, and we love
religion
people,
that we
and
provide
we
peace, we promote peace
peaceful people,
and justice.
Instead of being labeled as a troublemakers, we are not. We have a lot to be proud of. We came a long ways, and thank God for the guidance that we have had. And inshallah, we could continue on, but I still feel we should reach out to the young generation in the quickest possible.
Ahsan, thank you. And you mentioned interfaith. I think, Hajj Ali, that's very important, that dialogue. We had last week a group of religious leaders from Christians and Jewish communities that we met in the same room, and we were talking about the contribution of faith in peace and justice in the country and the world. And you are absolutely right. Our religion is still misunderstood by many people. They observe the experience of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. So really, we've been victims of so much ignorance and so much injustice, as a matter of fact. But it is up to us, as you mentioned, to reach out and introduce our faith, that we are for peace, we are for fairness, we are for unity. Our religion is about love, our religion is about mercy and compassion. Our religion is about respect, about responsibility. And we want to be part of solution. We don't want to be part of problem. We want to be part of solution, not just for our community, for our neighbors. Because we believe in one God, we believe in one universe, and one human family, that we are all children of Adam and Eve.
Good family values, yes.
Family values, that we learn these family values and we teach these family values to our kids, and they carry these values to the society. Because in the absence of those values, we see all this mess in the world and all this craziness and all of these wars and fears and crimes all over in the absence of those values. And obviously the mosque, us as clergy community, and the rest of the faith community, we are responsible. So let us remember the soul of Imam Sherri and Sheikh Khalil Bazzi and Hussein Karroub and everyone else who contributed to our faith and to our values and to our communities. Those Hujjaj that I mentioned in the beginning, that those 4 people who met with me at the airport the first night that I arrived in Michigan in 1992, Hajj Alawan and Hajj Ali Naji and Hajj Hussein Maghlid and Hajj Hussein Hamoud, Allah yarhamuhum. Allahumma aghfir للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات وتابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. We appreciate Hajj Ali Fayz. We learn from your words always, and you are in our prayers. Say our salam to Hajj Wanda and to your family.
God bless you, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.